Crescent's words echoed in my mind as I stood at the crossroads of my fate, not knowing whether to embrace the darkness that had become my family's legacy or to carve my own path, shining with the silver light of my newfound power. Welcome to the Alpha's Love Channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Chapter 6 analyzes POV. After all these years of being between the walls of the school, it was finally time to say goodbye. Graduation was finally here. It was time to part company with my friends and teachers. I would finally leave, taking with me nothing but memories of the past few years, memories about my first day here, my first meeting with Evelyn, training with Malcolm, the first time I learned about my powers, and many more, which will stay with me till the day I die. As I applied a last coat of mascara, I could not help the bundle of nerves in my stomach. With every passing second, it tightened, making me uneasy and on edge. My graduation speech was already a worry, but it was nothing compared to what awaited me once graduation was over. Enthusiasm, in my list of problems, the graduation speech was at the bottom, while the reunion with my family claimed first place. In 3 hours, graduation would be over. In 4 hours, I would be on my way back home. In 10 hours, I would be home with the people I called family. Just the thought was enough to make me feel several emotions at once: joy, sorrow, angst, anticipation, anxiousness. All of these emotions combined were enough to make me nearly throw up my breakfast. Looking in the mirror, I saw my reflection staring back at me. Even if time passed by and I changed, deep inside, I still saw the 7-year-old girl who craved her family's attention, who wanted to be loved and who did everything in her abilities to make her parents proud. And this time, there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes along with a familiar look of longing. Releasing a breath, I placed the mascara in my makeup bag before stuffing it in my suitcase. As I closed the bag, someone knocked on my door. Before opening the door, I already knew who it was, and a smile played on my lips. Swinging the door open, I was met with a beaming Evelyn. Ready for graduation? She smiled. I nodded. You look stunning, Evie. Indeed. In her black spaghetti strap jumpsuit with flared bottoms paired with simple gold accessories and black stilettos, she looked gorgeous. Her ethereal makeup and long, cold dozy blonde hair made her facial features stand out. Thanks, Anna. She whirled, showing me her entire outfit. You look absolutely gorgeous too. I swear when the people at the palace will see you, they will swoon over your beauty, and your stupid family will realize their mistakes. As for me, I was dressed in a knee-length beige dress with puffy sleeves and a belt of the same material, giving the whole dress an elegant and chic look. I paired it with nude heels and neutral make with my black hair in a half-up, half-down hairstyle. I let out a small laugh. Let's go now. We don't want to miss anything. She squealed excitedly as I went back inside to grab my phone. Even the headmaster's speech, I commented, closing my door behind me. Evelyn linked our arms and we walked towards the hall. I think I could endure one last and final boring speech of the old man. I just shook my head at her comment. As we neared the hall, the hallways were bustling with students, teachers and parents here to support their children. Excited chatters and laughter of students accompanied by their families filled the beautifully decorated hallways. Flowers and vases stood on stands at regular intervals on both sides of the hallways, and fairy lights adorned the walls along with balloons of themed gold, white and rose gold. With the witch's magic, sparkles fell on everybody passing the hallway till the hall. Despite the convivial atmosphere, some were still in a rush, ensuring their outfits were on point or for the last-minute decorations. I found myself smiling at the scene as we walked toward the entrance of the hall. It was no different from the hallways with the same theme going on, though it was more detailed. A big chandelier hung in the middle of the room with almond-shaped pendants strewn about. The lighting reflected in the glass, casting a spectrum of colors all over the place, being more prominent with a little touch of magic. Enthusiasm, in the middle. A long red carpet was laid with stanchions on both sides. The two sides of the stanchions were filled with perfectly lined up rows of chairs. The usually dull stage was shining with the fairy lights hanging over the place and smaller chandeliers hanging. Magical letters reading, "Happy Graduation," floated on the walls. On one side stood a mic and a podium. Not wasting any time, Eveline and I rushed to take our seats and waited for the ceremony to start as the excited chatter of students filled the room. A few minutes later, the hall was filled with attendees. The proud look on the parents did not go unnoticed as they sat and talked with their kids, and for a second I felt a pang of jealousy, but I pushed the feeling away as the headmaster, dressed in one of his finest suits I have seen him wear, went up the stage. Standing behind the podium, he cleared his throat. "Good morning to you all. I will start by congratulating the lot of you for making it up till here. It was only because of your hard work, patience and practice that you are all here today. Even if you cause a bit of trouble on the way here, you all truly deserve this day. I am proud that from the little troublemakers you were when you entered the school grounds, you are now grown-ups, who are mature and know what to do for the well-being of others. It was my honor to be able to contribute to your journey of becoming who you are today. The entire school is proud to have you amongst us, and I am sure you have also made your parents proud today." A round of applause went off in the audience. "I won't take any longer and torture you with my boring speeches today." The crowd laughed. "However, I hope you have a great life ahead of you. Make the right choice for you as well as others. Use your gifts carefully and wisely for good causes. I wish you all the best for the new, long journey awaiting you all. Thank you." More applause went off. "Now I would invite Annalise to make her speech," he said before leaving. As more applause went off after the announcement, I felt myself becoming nervous. Preoccupied with thoughts about my family, I completely forgot about my speech. As people turned to look at me, I regretted not making my speech. Due to my lack of preparation, the nervousness was now doubled. As I stayed rooted to my place, I felt someone grab my hands. Eveline looked at me, a soft and encouraging smile playing on her lips. "You got this," she whispered, giving her a small smile. I forced myself up. Taking a deep breath, I made my way toward the stage, feeling the gaze of the people watching my every step. As I stood behind the podium, I wiped my sweaty palms on my dress and let my eyes wander around the crowd, being met with many expectant looks. I recognized some of the faces as my classmates and others, random students I passed by in the hallways every day. Even if I did not prepare the speech beforehand did not mean that I should not say anything. I knew these people for a long time, many years. We all shared the same experiences at school. We learnt to fight together, we learnt to fall together, and we learnt to get back up together. We lived the same moments one way or another. This day was not an accomplishment for only me but also many others, and I was not going to let a foolish mistake on my part ruin this day. "You got this," Crescent added. Determined, I stood up straight and faced the audience and offered a small smile. The sudden rush of confidence felt strange yet amazing, overwhelming all of my senses. My heart was pounding in my ribcage, but not because of nervousness or fear, but because of excitement. At that moment, I knew I could do it. I never felt this way before, and I loved it. It was a new side of me, a hidden side that I would no longer hide. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, congratulations to us all students who made it here today. I know school is not exactly heaven on earth. Some would say it is very far from it, to the point that they consider it to be a hellhole or prison. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, hearts out thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Using air quotes at the end, and a few laughs erupted in the crowd, making me a bit at ease. But hey, We got through it despite the countless challenges we faced on our way here. Be it our studies, our powers, we got through it all. I took in a deep breath, letting my words hang in the air as I thought about my next words. This journey has been a great and memorable one which I think none of us would ever forget. However, we owe a lot to the teachers who have been our side throughout this journey, not only as art teachers but also parents or even friends. Students cheered in acknowledgement. I would like to thank all the teachers here for helping us control our gifts and find our true selves. I apologize for all the migraines we caused you all during this journey. Several students laughed and teachers joined in too. Most importantly, the headmaster. Thank you for opening this school for us. I know we have not been angels. Most of the time we were far from it, and I know we played a huge role in turning your hair white. He shook his head with a smile. But thank you for believing in us despite the mistakes we have done. Lastly, thank you to all the students here. We have all stood with each other together and supported each other. I hope that we have a great future ahead as we leave this part of our life behind. We should use our powers and knowledge for the good. Let's not let the efforts of the teachers and headmaster go to waste. Thank you and happy graduation to us all. Many cheers went off in the audience, accompanied by thunderous applause. I found myself beaming at the scene as my nerves buzzed with excitement and satisfaction. Maybe speaking up in front of many was not so bad after all. You did great, Crescent said as I descended the stairs. Great job, girl. Eveline cheered as I went back to my place. I can't believe I did it. I smiled at her before pulling her into a big hug, both squealing. The ceremony continued with other chosen students going to make their speeches. Soon it was time to get our certificates. As I got called up on stage, I imagined my family being in the crowd, watching me get my certificate with pride in their eyes. But when the teacher handed me my certificate and I looked over at the audience, I realized it would only remain adulation. Lizzie, don't care about them right now, Crescent said. Don't spoil your mood because of people who did not realize your worth. It's their loss, not yours. You got the certificate without their support. Everything you are today is because you did it. You put in the effort, the hard work, the determination, not them. What you are today is solely because of your merit, not even me. I am so lucky to have you as my wolf Crescent. And I am lucky to have you. Congratulations. Smiling, I made my way down the stage, waiting for Eveline. She was talking with her family. As soon as she was over, she came by my side and we headed to our rooms to take our suitcases. As I rolled my suitcase to my door, Miss Jennifer came to my room, informing me about the arrival of my driver. Taking one last glance at the room that has been mine over the years, I closed the door and stepped into the hallway. I walked towards the exit with a heavy heart. I felt like I was leaving a huge part of me behind, but then again, life goes on, and along with it, we should move on too. I exited the school and saw Eveline standing there. Two black cars were parked not far away. I recognized the car that the Redwater Moon pack, Eveline's pack, was considerate enough to send for her, and the Werewolf Royal Family sigil, a werewolf howling with a crescent moon behind it, on the other car. As I stood beside Eveline, I realized she had already kept a suitcase in her car. Her family were all seated in the car. She was waiting for me. She turned, looking at me with teary eyes. It was very rare that I saw Eveline cry. Seeing her state, I could not keep the tears at bay. It was time to say goodbye. Without any words, she pulled me into a hug. I will miss you so much, Evie. I will miss all your antics and your jokes. I never thanked you properly for being with me all this time. Thank you for being by my side, always listening to my problems. Thank you for not abandoning me despite the messed up life I have. If it was not for you, I would not have been able to stay strong all this time. You have been with me as my family. You have not only been my best friend, but also my sister. I hope I have done my part as your best friend. I love you. I will always do. To my agent extraordinaire, Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing Krishut's enthusiasm. God, you know how to make me cry. She pulled away but held both my hands in hers. I will miss you, Tawana. You're not just my friend or best friend, but also the sister I never had. I will never forget the different memories I had with you. Even if you do not know it, without you, I would not be who I am. You also played a huge role in making me who I am today. You never treated me differently for not being part of the royal family. You were always there when I needed you and endured my childish rants. I am really lucky to have you. I love you. As she finished, her voice broke at the end. Her eyes were red as trailed freely down her flushed cheeks. I had no doubt that I looked the same, probably worse. One last hug. My voice came out as a whisper. She pulled me in a tight hug and we just stayed in the same position for some time. None of us talking. The silence spoke more than words ever could. Goodbye suck, she said as we pulled away. It's time to leave now. Good luck with whatever awaits you at the palace. Take care of yourself, and if they hurt you in the slightest way, please leave. All the best for your new life. Make sure to make all those who look down upon you regret their words. Trust me, I will. They won't know what hit them. That's my girl. I beamed at her despite the tears. Goodbye, Evie. Goodbye. With that, she turned and walked away, towards her family who engulfed her in a hug. I took the suitcase in my hand and turned the other way. The scene completely contrasted with the previous one. Instead of a loving family, proud of their daughter, there was just a car with a driver dressed in uniform waiting for me. Seeing me, the driver walked towards me and took the suitcase from me. He put my suitcase in the trunk before opening the door for me. Muttering a small thanks, I slid into the back seat. Not later, the driver entered the car and we drove away. Congratulations on your graduation, Princess Annalise. He offered me a small smile from the driver's seat. Thank you. Please call me Annalise. No, Princess. That would be considered disrespectful. He said apologetically. Okay, sir. You should call me Richard. Why, I shot back. According to traditions, only those with high post can be addressed as sir. I scoffed at his words. And who started these traditions? I questioned. It has been going on for generations. That's right. It has been going on for generations. He stayed quiet, listening. These stupid traditions were started by stupid kings long ago who were foolish enough to think that being born in the royal family or high houses meant you deserve respect. They did nothing to get those titles. All they needed was to be born into the right family. What about those who work harder than these kings yet get treated like they're just dirt underneath you solely because of the family they were born in? I continued, not knowing where the spite for these traditions came from. In this world, titles mean nothing. They are no longer earned. They are just handed to spoiled brats instead of going to hardworking people who would actually make the kingdom prosper and not continue following the stupid traditions. Involuntarily, a small smirk played on my lips as I saw his speechless face. I don't know where the courage to speak like this came from, but I liked it. Maybe it was the sadness that got to me, or the rush of confidence from earlier was still there, or simply because the traditions were wrong. Studying at a school where everybody was treated the same and ranks or titles did not matter has changed my perspective of the hierarchy in the werewolf kingdom. You are right, Annalise. He just said, and I smiled to myself, pleased that I managed to get him to change his mind. Glad you agree with me. To my agent extraordinaire, Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing Krishut's enthusiasm. He nodded with a small smile before saying, you should get some rest. It is a long journey. Coming, I leaned my head against the window, watching the trees pass by in a blur. In a matter of minutes, I found myself falling asleep as the exhaustion from the day finally took its toll. Chapter 7 analyzes POV. It was dark but peaceful. I could not see anything, and yet I felt like I saw everything. It was like I was floating in the air. Where I would usually be scared to find myself alone in a dark abyss, I felt as if I was in an oasis of serenity because I knew I was not alone. Not far from me, I saw a wolf. A black wolf with familiar silky fur and silver eyes, Crescent. I could not help but smile at her as she headed towards me. I caressed her fur as she stood in front of me, placing my forehead against her head. Out of nowhere, the dark abyss was illuminated as streaks of colors floated around. I realized that it came from me. Streaks of colors escaped my hands into the surrounding as Crescent went ahead, playing, chasing the stripes. Soon, all of the glowing stripes surrounded her. I watched with shock and awe as they entered Crescent, both of them blending. I could not believe my eyes as I saw Crescent's fur release a glow all around her body, and her eyes were the brightest silver I ever saw. The power radiating from her was warm and powerful. Instead of coming back to me, she just sat there. "This is who we are, Lizzie. Don't forget that," she said as everything started to fade away. My eyes opened and I had not realized that a smile was playing on my lips. The dream was weird but comforting. It was the first time that Crescent and my powers were all in the same dream, and it did not end up turning into a nightmare. "What was that, Crescent?" I asked her, the picture of her still in my mind. "She looked so gorgeous and just powerful," she simply said before retreating. "You woke up just on time." Richard's voice snapped me back to reality. My parents. I was going to meet them again. I looked outside and saw the beautiful castle as we pulled to a stop in front of it. Richard got out and rounded the car, opening the door for me. "Thank you." Several memories played in my mind at the sight of the castle. It's been years since I last saw it, but it has not changed. Not drastically, at least. It was still of the same color, a mix of beige and brown for the walls with dark brown borders around and a dark brown roof, giving it its ancient look and feel. The walls were covered with vines as they tangled with each other. Big beige towers stood at equal distances at the corners, dwarfing the rest of the structure. On top of each stood the Werewolf Kingdom's flag with the same symbol that was on the car. In front of me stood the entrance with big, white double doors. A cobblestone path started at the entrance and stopped a few feet away from mine. The entire path was covered by a roof, supported by pillars. On top of the door, there were golden lines carved, forming intricate designs as they merged to finally create the sigil. As Richard came by my side with my suitcase, I walked towards the door guarded by 2 guards. They looked at me weirdly, a questioning look on their face, but upon seeing Richard with me, they opened the door, allowing us to enter. Thanking them, I followed Richard. As soon as I stepped into the castle, I felt nervous. The usual nervousness took over as my palms started getting sweaty. I did not know what awaited me here. Was I right about my family or wrong? I truly wished it was the former. For a long time, I wanted people to love me for who I am with all my flaws. I had Evelyn, who I loved dearly, but I wanted to experience the love of a family. My family. As we stood near the entrance, a petite redhead approached us. As she got closer, I realized she was a maid here. She was dressed in the usual elegant black dress with the golden werewolf sigil embroidered on the left side. She gave me a polite smile before addressing Richard. "Well, who would this beauty be?" I felt my smile drop at her words as Richard scowled next to me. I felt a pang of hurt but quickly masked it up with my smile again. I tried not to dwell on the fact that they did not remember me. Before Richard could answer, I did. "I am Annalise." I offered her my hand along with a small smile. She looked me up and down before realization settled in. The shock was clearly written on her face. "Sorry, Princess. I was not informed of your arrival." She bowed ahead of me. The hurt from mere seconds ago somehow got bigger. "They are assholes," Lizzie Crescent said. I did not know how to feel about the fact that they did not inform them about my arrival. No wonder those guards gave me those looks. Not only did they not know that but they did not even recognize me. I have changed significantly over the years. From a chubby 7-year-old, I was now a grown-up. At 18, I had a great figure with the right amount of curves at the right places from several years of working out and training. My hair had turned darker and it went down to my mid-waist. My facial features were now sharper and my once blue eyes had turned purple when I shifted. I will never forgive them. They have clearly not changed. Deep inside me, I was starting to agree with her. "It's okay," I managed to say. "My name is Lily." She introduced herself, taking the suitcase from Richard. "I will show you to your room." She turned around and started walking away. Before leaving, I thanked Richard. I quickly fell in steps with Lily as we walked through the familiar yet confusing hallways. We stopped in front of a room. Turning the knob, she opened it and entered. Keeping my suitcase in the middle of the room, she went ahead and pulled the curtains before opening the windows, letting light and fresh air into the room. At first sight, I knew it was not my old room. The room was bigger compared to my room at the school. On my right, a queen-sized bed was pressed against the wall with a nightstand on each side. On the far right corner of the wall, there was a door leading to the bathroom. Different pillows were arranged on the bed in different shades of beige and grey. To my left, there was a TV mounted on the wall and a small seating area with one chaise and 2 armchairs along with a coffee table in the middle on a big rug. A small fireplace was situated under the TV. On the other side of the TV, there was another door, leading to a walk-in closet. The most beautiful part of the room was definitely the small balcony opposite to where I was standing, enclosed by transparent floor, 2 ceiling windows as it overlooked the gardens. "Dinner will be ready at 8, Lily informed me as she started to leave, but I stopped her. "Where are my parents?" "They are not here, Princess. They will be back tomorrow." "Oh." I had nothing to say. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She nodded and left the room. Sighing, I rolled my suitcase to the walk-in closet and started unpacking and arranging my clothes to pass some time. I could not help but feel stupid. Eveline was right, they most probably have not changed. Firstly, they did not come to pick me up. Then, they did not inform anyone about my return. Lastly, they are not even here. It's not even been a day and their actions are proving me wrong. The thought of leaving occurred to me for a split second. As appealing as that was, I would not leave. Not now, at least. They called me here for a reason which certainly was not because they missed anything, judging by what they did, and I would not leave without knowing why I was here. Dismissing these thoughts, I changed into some more comfortable clothes, sweatpants and a hoodie. At 8, Yuri came knocking on my door, informing me about dinner, but instead of going to dine all in the dining room, I decided to eat in my room. Once I was done eating, I went to bed, dreading the next day when I would meet my family, with the excitement and hope fading away with every passing second. The next day they were here. This morning, when I had woken up, Lily had brought my breakfast to my room, informing me that I would meet my parents for dinner. To pass the time, I tried calling Eveline, but she would not pick up. I was starting to get worried about her, but then I realized that she was one of the strongest persons I met in my life, and she was capable of taking care of her. The rest of the day passed by in a blur as I explored part of the castle under the scrutinizing gaze of the guards, nearly getting lost and missing lunch. "You look gorgeous, Lizzie," Crescent complimented me as I applied the last touch of makeup. It is what I usually wear, crescent. I reminded her as I looked at the white sundress with beige flower patterns over it. A knock pulled me out of my trance. Coming. To my agent extraordinaire, Nocturnal, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Slipping on my wedges and taking my phone in my hand. Opening the door, I was met with Lily waiting. Princess, you look beautiful. Your family is waiting for you in the dining hall. Thank you. Lily, please call me Annalise. I smiled at her, closing the door behind me. I did not let her complete her sentence. No ifs and buts, because trust me, I will convince you otherwise. She gave me a small smile before guiding me to the dining hall. They are already inside. Knock before you enter, Annalise, she informed me. I gave her a nod as she continued down the hallways before disappearing at a corner. Taking a deep breath, I calmed myself down. I was about to knock but retreated my hands. What happened? Crescent asked. Did they ever visit me in the past years? No. Did they ever call me? Again? No, ever since we got here. Did they do anything relatively nice? No, Lizzie, but why are you asking me this? Since they did no such thing, should I follow their stupid rules? I know. Great. No knocking then, I said to her and took a deep breath, calming my nerves. Without knocking, I pushed the 2 doors open, entered the dining room where all several pairs of eyes landed on me. Here goes nothing. Chapter 8 analyzes POV. The room was big for a dining room just for the royal family. I still remember that the castle had several dining rooms. One just for the royal family, another one for when other kings and queens came, and lastly one for big feasts. Even if the castle looked the same from its exterior, the interiors had changed. The once dull, brown walls of the dining room were now painted white with beige borders and beautiful golden designs carved, giving it a more modern look. On the opposite side of where I stood, there were 2 big arc windows with curtains secured to the side, allowing the moonlight to enter the room. Between the 2 windows, there was a fairly big fireplace. On the mantel stood several candelabra with lit candles. Behind the candles, the family sword was displayed in all its glory as it has been for the past years. Higher on the wall hung the portrait of my family, making a wave of sadness rush over me. On the left side of the room, there were 2 doors which I would be guessing led to the kitchen or other hallways to get here. The right side of the room was void of any decoration except for an ancient grandfather clock. In the middle of the room, there was a table with a round tent chairs arranged around it, all perfectly spaced, with 2 at the head of the table and the remaining evenly spread at the side. Food was yet to be served, as only cutlery were placed on the table along with a few small flower decorations in the middle, on a long table runner with a few candle holders. On top of the table hung 3 chandeliers, the middle one bigger than the ones at its sides. I diverted my gaze from the decorations only to be met with several pairs of eyes, my family, staring back at me. Different emotions shock. To my agent extraordinaire, Nocturnal, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Loathing, hatred and even disgust swirled in their eyes, which they did not even try to hide from me. At that moment, I did not know what to do, but I did know that things were not what I had been hoping for. At the head of the table sat my father. On his left sat my grandmother, who I was shocked to see, followed by my mother. On his right sat Ray, and followed by an unknown girl, but I was guessing she was his mate. And lastly, to my agent extraordinaire, Nocturnal, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Seeing them all sitting as one happy family, I could not help but feel like I was intruding. My father still looked like he did all those ago, with the same blue eyes, black hair and sharp features except for a few more wrinkles. As for my mother and grandmother, they looked even more gorgeous than they were. The people who did change were my sister and brother. Rayanne was no longer the short, Meek boy. He was grown with a well-built body, and his brown hair, which he inherited from my mother, was perfectly styled, with not a single strand out of place. His face was no longer chubby, and his hazel eyes were now of a darker brown. Raina was no different. She grew up to become a beautiful woman. Unlike my brother, she had inherited my father's black hair but my mother's hazel eyes. However, her hair was now dyed auburn with a few blonde highlights, and her eyes had turned a bit darker too. Sitting there with the perfect posture and etiquette, she looked like a perfect princess, unlike me. The unknown girl was pretty too, with her ash blonde hair, emerald eyes, and soft facial features. None acknowledged my presence except for my father, who just nodded at me and motioned to the empty seat which was next to Raina. I felt like I could throw up at any moment. This whole situation was frustrating to me. As I sat down, I could feel Raina glaring daggers at me, but I decided it would best to ignore her. My mother, who sat on the opposite side, looked at me up and down, taking in my appearance. Ignoring her, my eyes met that of my grandmother, and all of a sudden I felt guilty, but a gentle smile from her made me a bit ease. At least someone who has a bit of manners in this room, Crescent commented. Nobody spoke as the doors leading to the kitchen opened and maids entered the room, bringing in dinner. Once it was served, they retreated to the kitchen except for two who stood by the door in case we needed anything. Despite the feast on my plate, I had completely lost my appetite. While food could always lift my mood, it did nothing. Everybody started eating. Not knowing what to do, I took my fork and just played with the food on my plate. The sound of cutlery clashing against the plates was interrupted as Raina started talking to father about things I had no clue about. Soon the others joined in too. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Laughing and joking around. With each passing second, the food on my plate turned into a disaster, a mush of meat. Potatoes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Rice, after the constant stabbing of my fork. They completely cast me aside. They acted like I was not even present in the room. I felt like I was in a museum. I was the art piece consisting of a single stroke of paint that people ignored to view the more complicated and bright work. But I was not letting that happen. Bored of their small talk, I dropped my fork on my plate with a cling sound. Everybody stopped talking and all their attention shifted on me. Despite the nervousness and slight fear I was feeling, I cleared my throat and leaned back in my chair. Now that I have your attention, may I know why you called me here? Not being able to stop myself, I added, King Gabriel. I was just as shocked as he was upon hearing what I said, but it was too late to take it back. I just raised an eyebrow at him, praying I did not look nervous. Before he could answer, my mother intervened. Have you forgotten your manners? What would people say if they heard you talking to your father like that? Her words took me back to when I was 5, freshly learning about etiquette from her. A princess should not sit like that. A princess should not eat like that. A princess should walk like this. A princess should dress like this. A princess should do this, and the list was endless. They would probably say that I had a death wish talking to him like that. I pretended to be in deep thought. That's all because they do not even know who I am. I motioned to one of the maids who stood near the door, listening to the conversation. She just bowed her head, confirming my words. How would they? I mean, it's not like my parents cared to tell anyone that I was coming back. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Not even trying to hide the distaste from my tone. It's not like your arrival is a great thing, Raina muttered beside me. Did anyone ask for your opinion, sister? I glared at her and was surprised to see her quiet. Something about her reaction made me smirk. Mother, You were talking about manners, but it looks like you forgot to teach her first. Don't speak unless spoken to. Princess Rule 15 if I am not wrong. Right, mother? I quoted the words of when she taught me etiquette. I had someone let out a small chuckle but ignored it. I know what I should teach my daughter. My mother said, glaring at me, but I just brushed her off. Don't think that by wearing new clothes, make up and twisting words, you will become more powerful. Deep inside you will still be the same weak girl, always living in my shadow. Her tone was full of hatred. Remember who you are. Lizzie Crescent encouraged me, and Raina's words did not hurt as much as I thought they would. You are right. It will not make me powerful. I started because I am already powerful. The image of Crescent in my magic was in my mind. Instead of replying to me, she turned towards our father, a helpless look on her face. My father's face contorted in one of anger before he spoke. What have you talked to my family, girl? I scoffed at his comments, not believing my ears, while Raina smacked at me. Family. I muttered under my breath, chuckling darkly to myself as they all stared at me. Well, why did you call me back then? Because it looks like I am not welcomed here and that I am intruding your family moment. You have turned into a spoiled princess. Ray Ant spoke up, shaking his head. Spoiled? I said, in disbelief. Can you tell me who was with me to spoil me all these years? He remained quiet. Mom, Dad, grandmother. Wait, they were not with me all this time. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The hatred in my voice becoming stronger. All that nanny you gave me. My teachers, none of them spoke, knowing very well I was telling the truth. And please, don't start throwing that stupid princess tile at me. You're the princess. You might as well behave as one. My father glared. You can't be serious. I laughed. You just told me that I am spoiled. Mannerless. Disrespectful. Are those the new qualities of a princess? You are so ungrateful. My mom said. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I glared at her. Your non-existent love and care. The old clothes and toys you gave me. Or should I be grateful that you sent me away? You are crossing your limits. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Raina exclaimed, off, shocking myself and the others in the room. I had no idea where I got the courage to speak to them like that, but I had no remorse for what I was saying. It was nothing compared to what I endured. Talk to him with respect. He is your future king. The mysterious girl spoke. Another girl needing etiquette class. Crescent snickered. Who are you again? I asked nonchalantly. She is my mate and you better speak to her with respect. She is your future queen. Rain defended his mate. Future queen. She is not a queen yet. I reminded him. Besides, what will you do, future king? I challenged him, stressing on the last part. I could already feel the agitation of his wolf as his authority got questioned. Going to send me away again? My father shouted, standing up and slamming his hand on the table, shocking everyone. Just like Ray Ann, his wolf was agitated as everybody submitted to him, bowing their head as they felt his powerful aura in the room, but I did not. Somehow, his authority did not work on me as I kept my head high, staring right at him. If he was shocked, he did not show it. Enough of your disrespectful behavior now. It's good that you do not want to be called the princess because you don't deserve that title. Your sister is right. You might have changed, but you will still be that weak, useless girl from all those years ago. He said as if it was nothing. Gabriel. Grandmother shouted at him, but he ignored her. You were never part of this family and will never be one. It would be better if you were not born. smirking at me, an evil glint in his eyes as he relished seeing me break. "You are strong, Lizzie. You saw it," Crescent reminded me. "I don't want to be part of your family," I nearly shouted as I stood up, making my chair fall with a loud thud. Everybody else stood up and my father's eyes were already starting to glow. "You want me gone?" "Great. I want to leave this place too," I exclaimed, not giving him a chance to say anything. "Just tell me why you called me here, because I know very well it was not a damn family reunion." My father was about to speak, but grandmother beat him to it. "Can I agent extraordinaire, Nigel Nilben? Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Why don't you go rest? This dinner is clearly not going as expected," she said in a surprisingly gentle voice, looking at me proudly. "We will speak about this tomorrow." Shaking my head, I stormed out of the room and went back to my room, ignoring the stares of the guards. I rushed to my room, keeping my emotions at bay. I masked the pain with a cold expression, hoping I did not look as shaken as I was on the inside. As soon as I got in my room, I slammed the door shut, releasing a little of my frustration. I did not find strength to walk to my bed as I slumped on the floor, leaning against the door. In a matter of seconds, I broke into tears. All their words were playing in my head like a broken record. How could someone treat their own daughter, their own red water like this? A family was supposed to be there to love you, cherish you, support you, take care of you, fight for you and protect you from the horrors of the world. But what if the family is the horrors of my world? What if they neglect you, hate you, break you, and abandon you? Then what? Lizzie, calm down. Nothing seemed to calm me down as I hugged my niece closer to me. I did not bother holding back my sobs. Crescent tried her best to comfort me, but I just could not. It was too much to take at once. After being in the same position for an hour, I finally got enough courage to get up. I cringed as I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. A broken version of me stared back at me. I saw the reflection of the little girl, but this time, the hope was gone and her eyes were dull. My eyes were red and my cheeks flushed with tears. Sighing, I washed my face before changing into some sleepwear. As I lay on the bed, I could not help but think about their words. I was stupid for thinking they could change. How foolish of me to think that I would get a happy family. I almost wanted to laugh at how dumb I was. Maybe they were right, I was weak. "Angela, shut up," Crescent said. "I am your wolf and I am not going to just let you drown in self-pity. If you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect others to do so? Are you seriously going to let their words get to you? The same people who neglected you all these years. They know nothing about you, about what you went through in life while they were here living their best life." For the first time, Crescent was so angry and she used my full name. "You are saying that you're weak?" That implied that I am also weak, and I am not letting anyone call me weak. Not even you. You saw what we are. We are not weak. You are not weak. You are strong and powerful. Don't let them drag you down. Know your worth. "Crescent," I replied, feeling guilty. "I did not mean to say you are weak. I am sorry," I sighed as I contemplated her words. "I promise I won't let them tear me down anymore. You are right. I am powerful, and it's not only because I have you with me, but because of what I went through. Everything I am today is because of my own work. They did nothing and they don't have the right to question me. All this time, I have been on my own. I survived. I will get through this. Besides, I have you and Evelyn with me, and Malcolm too. Only you three matter to me, nobody else. I will be strong, not for me but for both of us. I will not fail you. That's my girl. They won't even know what hit them," I chuckled at her. "Good night, Crescent." "I love you," I said. "Love you too," she said as she retreated. Despite being exhausted, I could not sleep. I knew it would never be the same anymore. The little hope that was now gone, leaving behind it a void and cold place. Today they crossed the line. The old me was gone. They killed her through their words and actions. Deep inside I knew I would get through this. I would finally put them in their place once and for all. I will make them regret all of their actions. They brought this on themselves. That was a promise from the new me. Don't forget that you are a fighter to analyze and you can do so much more than you know. Malcolm's voice played in my head. You are not alone on honor. I will always be with you. Don't let their words affect you anymore. This is your life. Their opinions don't matter. Eveline's words floated around in my head. I am a fighter. I am not alone. I am strong. I am powerful. They might not have changed, but I certainly will. Chapter 9 Anila's POV. I kept tossing around in my bed for the next few hours until I picked up some noises coming from outside. Through my werewolf hearing, I heard screaming from downstairs followed by sounds of crashing. I immediately sat up straight in my bed, heart hammering in my chest. Crescent. You might want to wake up, I said as I got out of bed, walking cautiously towards my door. I heard a low growl from Crescent, and I knew she was up and would be ready to back me up at any time. Pressing my ear on the door, I listened for the next few seconds. The commotion from the other side of the castle. I did hear footsteps near me, but all were going in the opposite direction. They were most probably guards going to see whatever was happening. To be able to move around without being detected easily, I covered mine and Crescent's scent with a spell I learned at school. Sighing, I opened the door a little, just enough to get a peek at the hallway. Everybody was gone. Closing the door behind me, I stepped into the hallway. Since I was still confused about where the hallways led, I let my hearing guide me, keeping my eyes peeled for any signs of danger. Soon I found myself standing in the foyer. Everything was a wreck. Crimson color stained the walls and the strong smell of metallic water reached my nose. The vases that once stood on the table were reduced to pieces on the floor, and the furniture was nothing but pieces of wood. On the floor lay countless bodies in pools of red water. I recognized the black uniforms of some, but others I did not. They were most probably the ones who attacked us. I heard more noise coming from the hallway to my right. Avoiding the bodies and red water, I walked in the direction of the noise. Only a few steps later, I caught the familiar scent of my father. I decided to follow. Walking down the hallway, there was no sound except for my breathing and the occasional screams coming from the other side of the walls. I did not know where I was going at all. I halted in my steps as I found myself at a dead end. Inhaling in a deep breath, I still caught my father's scent, and it was stronger this time. I looked around but saw nobody. Just then, a light breeze caressed my hair, and I looked at the open window on the wall in front of me. A piece of clothing hung, moving back and forth with the wind. Jumping, I caught it in my hand. This is what led me here, my father's clothing, Crescent said, alarmed. At the same time, I felt something behind me. I quickly turned around only to find nothing. Another blur passed on my side. Judging by his scent, I could tell he was not a werewolf. Slowly, I backed into the wall, keeping my eyes on his movements. Just as my back touched the wall, he stopped, but I could not see him because of the dark shadow. As he stepped out from it, I instantly recognized him by his red eyes, a vampire. What is a simple human like you doing alone in this castle full of predators? Smelling the air, an evil smile etched on his pale face. Since he could not get any scent, he mistook me for a human. The last time I saw a vampire was the night I met Malcolm, and I managed to kill him without using any magic. This time not only did I have magic but also training. The school trained us to control our power and also learn how to fight without magic, though we never used it in real situations. I guess this would be a great place to finally put it into practice. Should I be scared right now? I rolled my eyes, feeling confident in myself. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nolban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The talk with Crescent did help. He looked at me in confusion. You are about to die, girl. Eyes turning red with his fangs extending. I would like to see you try. I stood my ground, a daring look in my eyes. Just as I expected, he lunged at me using his speed, but I was faster. As he stood confused in front of the wall, I was already behind him. He sensed my presence but was too late. I took the piece of clothing that was still in my hand and wrapped it around his neck, tightening it with my force. Before he could tear the clothes around his neck, I heard his bones cracking from the force I exerted, and his body went limp. I let go and he fell to the ground. Turning around, I used all my senses to inspect the surrounding. As a result, I felt the presence of other vampires in the corners. Come out of your hiding place. I know you are here, I said in a sing-song voice. Just as I expected, more vampires stepped out from all sides, all ready to attack. The one in front of me smirked as he realized they had me cornered. A little early to be happy, don't you think? I raised an eyebrow at him. Instead of replying, he came straight at me. Despite his fast moves, I grabbed him by the neck, only seconds away from biting me. He looked at me in shock, but it was short, lived as I threw him against a wall and sounds of bones cracking reached my ears. All the other vampires had formed a semi-circle around me as they advanced together, snarling. Using my speed, I bolted to my left side where I snapped one of the vampire's necks, causing him to drop dead on the floor. I moved to the next one, delivering a punch to his face as he stumbled backward. I kicked the next one in the stomach before colliding his face with my knee and throwing him against the wall. I moved to the next two at once, grabbing both by the neck and colliding their heads together before throwing them where their friends were. Not stopping, I moved to the last one, punching him in the stomach followed by a roundhouse kick before regaining my position near the wall. I watched as they all lay on the floor, clutching their head, stomach or legs. Maybe this fight was not so bad at all. It was helping me release a lot of my pent-up emotions. It felt good to be able to defeat them, to show them what I was made of. I felt strong, powerful, confident and in control. The feeling that had engulfed my senses as I gave my graduation speech was back. Only this time, it is stronger. Crescent was right. If I did not believe in myself, then nobody would. Both of these times, I believed in myself and the feeling was exhilarating. It was at these things that I shone the most. I was good at this. Maybe even great. The vampires were now back up, having healed from my previous attack. One of them lunged at me, but I sidestepped him, grabbed the back of his neck, slamming his head against the wall before snapping his neck. This time, all of them came together. As the first one came at me, I extended my claws, ripping his chest open as he fell to the ground. My eyes had started glowing silver. Retracting my claws, I grabbed another one's arms as he tried to strangle me. Without thinking, I plunged my hand into his chest and ripped out his heart before letting go of his body. Throwing his heart next to his body, I moved to the remaining three as they both surrounded me. At the same time, I extended my hands forward, whipping their heart out in one swift motion using my magic. Once sure they were all dead, I moved to another hallway. I rounded several corners but yet found nothing. They should really provide a map or something for this place. I reached a double door but heard nothing. Opening it, I saw one of the other dining rooms empty. Just as I turned to exit, someone kicked me in the stomach, sending me flying backward and landing near the dining table. Not again. I groaned. The door opened wider, and more vampires entered the room. Without wasting any time, I got on my feet, took the nearest chair and slammed it against the pillar a few feet away. As it turned to pieces, I picked up a long and pointed one just in time as the vampire grabbed me by the neck and raised me above the floor. I stabbed him in the heart and he let me go. Coughing, I got back to my feet. "Get her," one of the vampires yelled before charging. I removed the wood from the dead vampire's body and threw it at the next one, hitting him straight in the heart. Another one came at me, and I simply cracked his neck. The others stopped dead in their track and I saw the fear start to set in as they slowly backed away. Leaving already. With one flick of my wrist, the doors closed. What to see some magic? The remaining 5 vampires looked at each other, confused. I placed my left hand in front of me, and the vampire standing closest to me levitated above the floor, holding his neck and gasping for air. I turned my wrist and all his pain stopped. He died. The others stood frozen in their spot. Who's next? I sounded like a psychopath to my own ears. "Yeah, but I like this version of you a lot," Crescent said. One of them tried to run away but in vain. Just as he took his first step, I lifted a piece of the broken chair with my magic before sending it straight in his direction. He dropped dead as the wood pierced his heart from the back. "TSK. You can't get out of here alive. You have seen my powers," I said before snapping their necks with a flick of my wrist. I smirked as their bodies dropped to the floor with a thud. I left the room and finally made it to a hallway where the guards were fighting off some vampires. I also cut the scent of my father along with the others nearby. One of the guards saw me in the hallway and was approaching me when his eyes widened. "Watch out, princess." His words attracted the attention of the others. At the same time, I felt a vampire move behind me. In no time he was in front of me, but he stopped, his skin turning pale, the veins around his eyes getting darker as I ripped his heart out. "Is this your new hobby, Lizzie?" Despite their disapproval, I helped the guards fight the remaining vampires. "Are you okay, princess?" the guard who warned me earlier asked. I turned around to face him. If I am not wrong, I saw him and some others gulp at my state. I had fresh and dried red water on my face and clothes. My hair was probably a big mess. What completed my look was definitely the heart I held in my hand and the red water dripping from my palms to my wrist and forearms, covering the tattoo on my inner wrist. I simply threw it aside. "I'm fine," I said simply, trying to wipe the red water off my hands on my shirt. He introduced himself. "Thank you for helping us, princess." He bowed his head a little and the others followed her. "No problem," I said awkwardly. "Where is my father, by the way?" "In the study room, princess." Another guard spoke up. "Could you show me the way, please?" I stood there just looking at him, not knowing where to go. Thankfully, they showed me the directions. After many twists and turns and dead bodies, I finally found the study room. As soon as I opened the door, my hands flew in front of my face, catching an arrow only centimeters from my face. "To my agent extraordinaire, Marion Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm." I threw the arrow to the side, glaring at the person who shot it. He quickly kept his bow to the side. Looking around, I found my father and brother along with a few guards standing behind the big mahogany table in the middle of the room, their hair disheveled and clothes stained with splotches of red water. Other than that, they looked all right. In the corner of my room, I saw my mother, Raina, Ivory and grandmother standing with guards surrounding them, arms drawn out in a protective stance. Before I could speak, someone knocked at the door and a guard entered. "The vampires are dead, some escaped." He lowered his head in shame. My dad let out an irritated sigh before slamming his hand on the table. "How could you let them escape?" He hid in this room the entire time and has the audacity to shout at the guards who protected him. Crescent commented. If he ordered and the guard exited the room. I felt several pairs of eyes on me, and I turned towards where my mom stood, and I was right. They were looking me up and down. What? Irritated, you look gross. Raina commented, scrunching her nose. Because unlike you, I do not have guards who babysit me. I mocked her, not waiting for her to answer. I addressed my father. So why am I here? I demanded firmly. He motioned for the guards to leave the room, leaving only me and my family. We need your help. It looked like he was having difficulty saying the words out loud. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Why would you need the help of someone weak and useless? I used their own words against them. He glared at me, but then my grandmother proceeded to explain the situation around the vampire. So, you called me here just to use me? I huffed with disbelief. Maybe I should side with vampires and kill them myself. Grandma said we have a better chance with you on our side. Ray Ernst spoke up. What do I get out of this? I asked curiously. Anything you want, my father replied. And remember, we are only doing this because Mother said it. Don't get your hopes high and wish for things that will not happen. My mother said, and I rolled my eyes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Firstly, once this whole war thing is over, I want everything between us to be over. You don't know me and I don't know you. You never try to contact me no matter what happens. All ties binding me to you and to the royal family should be broken, and I will not be the princess. Just a normal werewolf. Anything else? My father asked. He looked a bit taken aback by my demand, but nevertheless stayed quiet about it. During my stay here, I should be able to do what I want and go as I please without any questions. You should not interfere with my life at all, and since I don't know how long I will be staying here, I need money because I don't have a job. You will be given a fixed allowance. I am not 10-year-old. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I will spend as much money as I need. No limit. They brought this on themselves when they said I could have whatever I wanted. Besides, I don't think that my purchases would even make a dent in the amount of money they have. Done, he gritted out. I am not done yet. I gave him an innocent smile. I need a car. Since you need my help, I want to be seated on your right in meetings and all. He was about to interrupt me, but I continued. Any news regarding the vampires or any other threat should be reported to me directly as soon as possible. No actions will be taken without consulting everyone, including me. That's all I think. I said in a nonchalant voice. You will not be seated on my right in meetings. He gritted out, glaring at me. The seat to the right of the king was that of the queen or someone with authority. Fine then. How about the seat on your left? I smirked at Ray Ann. The seat to the left was reserved for the next ruler, and here, it was Ray Ann. Mother is sitting on my right, and Ray on the left of Gabriel. My mother glared. If you want, you can sit next to Mother. I ignored her and addressed my father. So what will it be? On your left or your right? I did not really care where I sat, but it felt good to see their egos get a little crushed. Both seats to my father's right and left are kept for the most powerful ones in the family after my father, and if I could sit there, I was pretty sure they would not be pleased. They would be pissed, and that's something I looked forward to, especially if I was the reason behind it. He looked like he was at crossroads as his eyes darted between grandmother and Ray Ann. We need her, Gabriel. My grandmother reminded him. You can take Ray Ann's seat. He finally caved in. I cut Ray Ann's sentence. Great. You will receive all the news and will be consulted for any plan of action just like the rest of us. I just nodded, pleased. Since this is done, I will take your leave now. I turned on my heel and was about to leave when my mother said, "We have a meeting tomorrow with other people who will be our allies. Dress properly and make a good impression on them. I will do what I want." I simply said as I exited the room, "Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.